Hey guys, how's it going? My name is j-statik and this is Static Sessions. Today we're going to be talking about mixing tabla, dholki, and dhol. What we're going to do is we're going to be working on loops. So this is loops that I've found that I've kind of gathered throughout my years, and I put them together, and I'm going to make, they all sound pretty raw right now, but for every song that I do, I usually mix them differently so that we have that right feel for that song. Right now, I don't have a song to put it into, so I'm just going to layer them and kind of make them sound good on their own. But you can always use these tips and tricks to kind of make your song sound the way you want to with the layers and loops that you guys have. I will be doing another video with live recorded sessions too, so we can kind of compare the two of them. They're pretty much similarly mixed, but with the live ones, you end up using some loops in the background too to give it that fullness, because wherever you record it, you may not get that exact sound that you're looking for. I know a lot of people, when they think of dhol, dholki, and all that kind of stuff, they usually have this vision of heaviness, or if they think about hair, they have that thinness and sharpness that punches through. It all depends on the sound that you're kind of going for. So for me, I don't really have a sound that I'm going for. I just want this to sound as full as possible. Based on that, I'm going to try to do some things. So right now, if we're looking at this, there's a lot of layers, but as you can tell from here on up, they're pretty much all muted. These are just, you know, hi-hats and kicks and claps and crashes and stuff like that. Not real percussion at this point. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start off with a few layers and show you guys what's going on. So first we'll start with the typical loop that everybody knows. Shout out Mophylactic, Zeus, and everyone who kind of used this loop to another degree, but this is what it is. So that's a typical loop everyone knows about. Everyone uses it in every song that exists to mankind. Right now what we're going to do is I'm going to start adding some stuff to it. We're going to see where it sits, if we need to balance it a little bit, keep going forward. So right now I'm going to add some tabla. And that sounds awesome. I love how that sounds. Right now it sounds a little bit more romantic than I want it to, but it is what it is. Once we start adding dhol and dholki, we'll see where this actually fits. At this point right now, I got about, how many layers is that? About 8 layers of dhol, and we're going to see where this fits right now. Now that sounds pretty heavy already. Sounds great. But what we're going to do is we're going to start, there's too much stuff happening in that low end where it's probably sounding a little bit heavy, but it might be sounding a little bit muddy. So if other things start being put on top of it, such as kick or bass lines, you're going to have a lot of interference. So right off the bat, we're going to go into some EQing, because that's a lifesaver on its own. And you don't need any special type of EQs. All you need is simple, straightforward EQs that tell you exactly what you need to do. So I'm going to mute the other sounds again. And we're going to go back to playing just the dholki, and then we're going to see where this goes. You see where I'm circling right now? There's so much stuff in that low end spectrum that we don't really need. I don't think you can even hear it. So what we're going to do is we're going to roll that off, and why not? Even that hi-hat type of shaker thing that's on the top, I'm going to try to bring that down a little bit. To me, that makes it sound a little bit more tighter. I think that's the best way to look at it. I'm going to add in tabla afterwards. I think tabla is something that should be accenting this whole situation. So right now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go with my main dhol layers and see if I can make these sound really good with the dholki that we already have. So, and I know some of the timings are off, but that is another conversation for another day. That's kind of intense when it comes to timing percussion, but I will be going into that at one point. But today we're just going to talk about taking your loops and making them sound the way we need them to. So once again, a lot of low end. Let's try to make the low end sit a little bit tighter and better and see where it goes. So I rolled off pretty much everything underneath 80 hertz or about 70 hertz. and then I add a little bit of a cue to it. It gives it more of that thump on the low end and pretty much what we're kind of looking for. Now a cool little trick, and I think I use this everywhere, so my one secret is out of the bag, is I use JJP drums for literally every single Dhol layer because I think it makes it sound so nice and fat. So going to JJP drums, click on kick out, you're going to hear a huge difference. Now this automatically brings out that drum right to the front, makes it sound beautiful. And then there's a couple of things in here like attack, sustain, altitude, and punch. Punch I don't use because I feel like it's, I mean, when you're talking about percussion, it's already pretty punchy. If you don't have punchy percussion, something might be wrong with the player. Now you're looking at attitude and attack, and I'm going to move these up and down. You're going to see how they affects it. So there was like some low mids in there that got brought up, and I think some of the highs too, and it makes it sound really nice and fat. The attack I don't like because I feel like it's too much going on. If I put that attack in there, I'd probably put a compressor afterwards to control it, and I don't see the point in doing that if I already like the way it sounds. So to me, that sounds pretty dope. I think that sounds pretty cool. Now, I like how that sounds, but I'm still going to add these other 3 layers in too. And I'm pretty much just going to copy the same stuff I have on this one and see how it sounds. And I'm doing that because I already know what they sound like, but so you guys can hear how it sounds. So I like how that sounds right now. This is going to be a filled out layer, so it's not going to be something that's prominent in the front, but we're trying to still make it have its presence. And not presence as in high end, I mean presence as in have its own body of work. I think that sounds pretty cool. Now we're going to try to mix in these two and see what they sound like together. That sounds pretty fat, and now that sounds cool. Let's see how this tabla sounds on its own. To me, that sounds flat as anything, whereas before I felt like that was one of the most fat sounding tabla or tabla. I don't know what the plural is of that, but now let's see how this sounds. Throw some JJP on there as well. As you can tell, I'm distorting that plugin. Sounds kind of cool. Let's see how that fits in. That sounds pretty cool to me. I think that's an awesome way where we brought it to. So right now, I just minus the effects. You're going to hear what it sounds like raw. Then I'm going to add the effects back in. And you're going to hear what it sounds like with the effects. A little bit all over the place, something that you don't want. So now I'm going to bring these effects back in. Now I think that sounds great. I think that's the heavy sounding Dhol type of sound that we're trying to go for. And once you start adding in all these little bits and pieces like the shakers and the high end that comes with that, you're going to get a nice little sound that sounds like this. if we start adding in a little some kicks, we'll be almost on our way. And that's it. That's how you get your little bit of a Dhol Dholki Tabla type sound with your hi-hats and your kicks. It's how you make it sound as fat as I can make it. Other guys probably have their own little ways, but this is how I do it. And I hope that helps you figure out how to mix Dhol, Dholki, and Tabla. For me, this was one of the hardest topics growing up because I was always told that I didn't have that sound that I was looking for or that other people were looking for in their production. And I feel like I finally got to a point where I'm happy and satisfied with what I'm able to bring to the table. I'm hoping you guys can do the same thing with this. So if you like that, please like, comment, subscribe, press a little button for future videos. And until then, stay tuned.